My name is Paula Sinisterra, and after years of going through my own mental health challenges and the recovery, healing, and growth process that went along with that, I took my natural passion for understanding the human mind and my affinity for helping other people, and I embarked on a journey towards becoming a mental health professional. Today, I'm a licensed clinical mental health therapist and a clinical hypnotherapist, and it is my mission with this channel to empower you guys through knowledge by sharing with you what I have learned on my many years of this journey and what I continue to learn on a daily basis. It's my hope that through these videos you will find strength and inspiration to help you along your own journey, your own mental health challenges as you move towards higher and higher states of wellness and mental fitness. So today I want to talk to you guys about suicide. This is a conversation that we don't have often enough. It's a word that a lot of people are scared of. And just so you know, this is Leah, my little kitty. She's going to be jumping in and out of the videos every now and then because she loves to be on the couch around me. Animals are also great de-stressing, natural stress relievers. So yeah, adopt an animal if you can, but this is Leah. She's gonna be jumping in and out of the video, so don't be surprised if you see her because I can't tell her not to get on the couch. Bye, Leah. So today I want to talk to you guys about suicide, okay? It is National Mental Health Awareness Month, and I think that this is a really important topic. A lot of people don't realize that it is a leading cause. It is one of the leading causes of death in the United States with people that are ages 10 to 34 in 2017. These are statistics by the CDC, right? And so these are the reported cases. But ages 10 to 34, it is the second leading cause of death in 2017. So it continues to increase significantly from year to year. And it's the fourth leading cause of death for ages 35 to 54. So this is a pretty big deal, guys, and we aren't talking about it. People are scared of that word. It continues to be a taboo subject, and we are losing so many young people to this epidemic of suicide. So, you know, before we even go into the solutions, which of course, the solutions are continued conversations around mental health, continuing to work together to take away the taboo of mental health challenges, continuing to address the insecurities and challenges that we all face as humans, continuing to just have these conversations and to acknowledge that we are human and that suicide is playing a much bigger role in killing off our youth than we are openly acknowledging. It continues to be taboo, as I just mentioned, and people are scared to say that word, right? People are scared to even ask, you know, if you see somebody that you really care about or just somebody in your life that's always down, there's so much hesitation around asking people, you know, like, are you thinking of killing yourself? Are you thinking of committing suicide? And in a lot of ways, there tends to be this myth and this narrative around or fear around, like, maybe if I ask them that, that's going to put the idea in their head. It's the exact opposite, right? We want to be able to have this conversation openly, and when people that are actually thinking about suicide, people who are, you know, engaging in suicidal ideation, which is what it's called when we think about it, when they realize and experience that you are not scared of having that conversation with them, that you're not scared to ask them, there is so much room for us to be able to let go of the shame around it and actually help prevent some of these suicides, right? And again, I want to emphasize that this is not rare. You probably know people, I mean, I'm almost certain that you know people and that there's people in your life that are thinking about suicide right now. In 2017 alone, 10.6 million people in the United States reported considering suicide. And this is just the people that are reporting it, guys. That means that it's happening at a much higher rate than we are willing to acknowledge. I say that we would be hard pressed, or I'd be hard pressed to find somebody that hasn't thought of suicide at one point or another in their life. And this is something that we are so scared to talk about, but it's a reality. There is life and there is death. Sometimes life gets really challenging. There is no way around that. Life gets very challenging, and when the stressors and the challenges in our life seem to be surpassing our ability to cope, it is natural, and it happens all the time, for the thoughts of like, maybe it would be easier if I just ended this. For these kinds of thoughts to start coming through our mind, because death is clearly the opposite of life, right? So when we are struggling with life, these thoughts are very likely to come through our mind, and it does not make you abnormal. It does not make you crazy. It does not mean that, you should be ashamed. It makes you human, and it is an option that we can't deny that is there as part of the human experience. We do, at the end of the day, if we really want to, have the option of taking our own life, right? So if we pretend that people aren't thinking these thoughts when they're going through emotional struggles, then we are not opening up the door and allowing this conversation to have a seat at the table so that we can acknowledge what's really going on. So 10.6 million people reported just in 2017 alone that they seriously considered suicide, okay? From that number, 1.6 million actually attempted suicide, and from that number, 1.2 million approximately actually successfully completed suicide. Okay, so these numbers are pretty high, guys, and suicide is taking a lot of our teens, and as long as we continue to be afraid of asking the question of like, are you thinking about suicide? It's gonna continue to take more lives. You'd be surprised how many people that are actually struggling with this would open up about it, especially our teenagers, would open up about it if we ask them, if we invite them to open up, if we help them realize that they're not alone in this, if we help them realize that there is help, because there is help. But nobody can seek help if they're too scared to acknowledge and too ashamed to acknowledge that they're having these feelings, right? So dealing with this, first, we have to be willing to get uncomfortable and ask the people around us if they're thinking of suicide, and I would say some warning signs for this is if you have somebody in your life that is struggling with feelings of hopelessness, that are expressing feelings of hopelessness, things like there's no hope, like what's the point? Why am I even here? I'm a failure, low self-esteem, things like that. It's not far-reaching to think that that person might be thinking of committing suicide, right? And more people than ever are in the United States are acting on that. So most of us have lost somebody to suicide or have people around us that are thinking of committing suicide, right? And I have my own personal experience with this. When I was 16 years old, my best friend and cousin actually killed herself, right? So we were super close, and she seemed on the surface to be the most cheerful person ever, but she struggled with depression and she struggled with her own mental health challenges around that. And she actually expressed to me at that very young age that she had thought of suicide, right? A lot of times when people tell us this, we are so tempted, or we so desperately want to, at least this was definitely my experience as well, to not take it seriously, because we don't want to believe that like that's real. If we were to acknowledge that that person really is actually seriously thinking of killing themselves and they're not joking, that means that we have to take action. We have to get uncomfortable. We have to engage in these conversations. We have to, seek out treatment. We have to, at that point for me, it was, I had to tell the adults. I had to break this trust that I had with my cousin and best friend and tell the people that were the adults that she was thinking of doing this. She made me promise not to share, and I agreed not to share because that was my cousin, and I believed her when she told me she wasn't thinking about it anymore, but that she had not only seriously thought about it, but she had attempted it in the past, right? If somebody tells you they've thought about it, that's already an alarm ringing off. If somebody tells you that they've attempted, that's definitely an alarm, right? And if they're not engaging in therapy, if they're not getting the help that they need, and that's somebody that you care about in your life, reach out to people that can help them, or seek out mental health professionals so that they can start getting the help that they need, right? Eventually, with my cousin, in my own experience, she ended up attempting again after telling me that she wasn't going to do it anymore. And thankfully for me, she did not succeed. So I was able to, at that point, be like, oh my God, I have to open up about everything that she told me, because if she succeeds at this, if she continues to try, and I kept this a secret and I didn't take it seriously and I didn't share what I knew, I was gonna have to carry that with me for the rest of my life. So she failed again. And at that point, I opened up to my family, I opened up to her parents, and I opened up to the people around us that I knew these things and that she had shared these things with me, and that we needed, you know, obviously at that point I was 16, so there wasn't a whole ton I could do, but I was able to open up about it and share with the adults in my life what I knew, which has allowed me to not have to carry the guilt from that situation for the rest of my life. Eventually she succeeded. So she was serious and she was committed to doing this, right? And, you know, part of that goes along with feeling like she couldn't really get helped. Like she really wasn't going to be able to come out of this. And she was very hesitant to take medication. Now, I'll make another video in the future about what my stance on medication is, but I do believe that when somebody is actively suicidal and aggressively taking action on that, medication can save their life, right? And in this case, she was adamant about not taking it and convinced us again that she wasn't gonna try, and we all believed her, and eventually she succeeded. So after that, I now know from personal experience that when somebody tells us that they're thinking of committing suicide, that they're having those thoughts, we need to take it seriously every single time, because all it takes is one time for somebody to succeed. That's all it takes. So if somebody in your life is showing signs that they might be suicidal, again, you know, withdrawing, isolating, expressing hopelessness, expressing desperation, things like that, take it seriously. And especially, you know, if you can do this for somebody that you love and show them that you're there, ask them if they are thinking of suicide, if they're thinking of committing suicide. You know, a lot of times people will be surprised to be asked that outright, but it is not a far-fetched question to ask whatsoever. It's a reality. And again, it is the second leading cause of death in the United States for ages 14 to 34, 10 to 34, ages 10 to 34, okay? This is serious. So ask them if they're thinking of committing suicide, okay? If they tell you they are, allow yourself to sit with the discomfort of asking them what's going on, inquiring into it, and asking them, like, you know, helping them process, you know, what they have to lose. And while you're in the process of getting them help or referring them to a professional, a really important question to ask people that are suicidal is like, are you safe for now? You know, like, we're not gonna think a year from now, because if they're in deep emotional pain, they don't wanna think that they're gonna survive for another year sometimes, right? So if we say, like, can you promise me you're never gonna commit suicide? That is not the question to ask. What we wanna ask people is, are you safe for now, right? Can you promise me, or are you safe until I see you again? Are you safe until tomorrow? A lot of times when people are experiencing suicidal ideation and planning for suicide, one of the most powerful things that we can do is express that we care, is show them that we care, show them that we're willing to get uncomfortable and be there with them and go into this conversation with them and be present until we can find them the adequate professional support, right? So yes, if somebody in your life is experiencing thoughts of suicide or you think that they are, ask them. And then the next step is to seek professional help, to seek mental health counselors, right? To help them not isolate, right? Isolation is the worst thing that people can do when they're struggling with this. We need to engage with a social community and we need to feel supported by our fellow humans. It's also really important to acknowledge that men are 3 times as likely as women to commit suicide. Although women attempt more often, men actually succeed way more often, because the trend is that oftentimes, not always, but a lot of times, suicide attempts with women tend to be cries for help, moments of desperation, right? When men decide to kill themselves, a lot of times there's a lot more committed action to it because of the shame that is involved if they were to fail. And this is a conversation around the cultural narrative of toxic masculinity, where men are supposed to be strong, meaning in the definition of strong being not having emotions and not struggling with vulnerability, right? So when men are going through emotional pain, they are much more likely than women to actually commit suicide before they seek out help. This is where it becomes really important for us to start encouraging our men and the men in our lives to acknowledge their humanity, to acknowledge their emotions, and to realize that it's okay to experience depression, it's okay to experience anxiety, and it's okay to feel insecure. It's okay to experience all of these things because men and women are both human, right? Like when we are babies or little kids, they cry at equal rates. As we grow up, men are being conditioned into this state of toxic masculinity. Excuse me. This state of toxic masculinity where they don't feel free or they feel too much shame to express their emotions or whatever challenges they're going through. So to say that, we need to work together as men and women to turn that around, because we are all human and we all experience all of this. So just to wrap this video up, I felt that it was really important to make a video on this topic on this month of mental health awareness, because it is, I would say, like the silent killer epidemic right now that nobody wants to talk about, and we all need to get more comfortable talking about this and acknowledging that in many ways suicidal thoughts are part of the experience of being human. At one point or another, I would say, you know, we'd be hard pressed to find somebody that hasn't had these thoughts, okay? But when people acknowledge that they are having them, we need to take it seriously, and we need to understand that there's a risk that there's a pretty high chance that they will actually try. All it takes is one time. So asking them, you know, are you safe for now while we get you help, and showing that you're there and that you're present and you're willing to engage in this conversation so that people don't feel so alone in this, because you're not. You know, anybody that is out there listening to this that is struggling with suicidal thoughts, like, you're not alone, and there's a whole life out there in front of you, right? Now, I can't help but think sometimes, like, if we had gotten my cousin past a certain age, like, there'd be so many possibilities for her, right? It's just helping people get past that really challenging emotional pain that feels all encompassing at that moment, and being there for them while they get through that. And you know, there is light at the other end of the tunnel, and if you are struggling with suicide, seek support. I'm gonna link down below the National Suicide Hotline. Go watch my video on depression, understanding, you know, what beliefs we are believing about ourselves, and things like that, and engaging with in a mental health therapy process so that you can start to uncover what it is that is causing this emotional pain. Okay? Because once we are able to bring understanding to the pain and awareness to the pain, we can identify what the pain is trying to tell us so that we can be able to put forth effective coping mechanisms and interventions for overcoming it. Okay? I love you guys. I hope this was helpful. And until next time, be kind to yourselves.